Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic 90s nerds, to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, like today, which we are talking about a specific book, Ghoul. Thanks to anyone who read this along with me for my book club, the Midnight Book Society. I really appreciate it. It's really dark in my room right now, and my freaking lighting is terrible, so please excuse me. I didn't feel like setting up a whole bunch of stuff, but I do have my ring light. Still, it's bad. Hi, Cool Gamer. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Katrina. Hi, Becky. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. So, what are you guys reading right now? What are you watching before we jump into the specific stuff about Ghoul? I just want to hear about what you guys are reading right now specifically. Smells Like Teen Horror is here. Hey, Arlene is here. DJ's here. Bob Apples is here. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate all of you so very much. And thank you also, by the way, to anybody who's watching after the fact, because I appreciate that too. No matter when anyone watches or tunes in, it really means a lot to me no matter what. Arlene's coming into the chat from Manchester, and they're having a heat wave. She wants to have a cool chat, so she's doing a little wordplay. Oh, I hope you get some cooler weather there soon. It is very hot here too. In fact, there's a farmer's market next door to where I live. Like, there's a park, and then they have it on the other side of the park, a farmer's market. So we walked to that this morning, and it was so hot. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana, or just outside New Orleans, and it's very extremely hot. So it's kind of honestly unbearable sometimes. Like today, the idea of riding bikes, which we might do later, is just kind of mind blowing. Like, how am I going to survive the heat? Oh, Katrina's reading De-Evolution. Isn't that by Max Brooks? Is that by Max Brooks, Katrina? Am I right? Am I thinking of the right book? DJ's reading Gwendy's Magic Feather. Smells Like Teen Horror is reading Most Likely to Die. I've never heard of that one. I am currently reading Thor, and that's from my friend Kelly's book club, the From Hell book club. You can find Kelly at Kelly Hooked on Books on Instagram and as well on YouTube. So for her book club, like I said, we're all reading Thor, and that is by Wayne Smith, I believe. It's on my Goodreads. I think I'm right. I am loving it so far. I'm only 15% in, I should say, not minutes. It took me probably 20 minutes to get 15% in. It feels like it's a very quick read, and it's all told from the perspective of the family dog. His name's Thor. He's a German Shepherd, and I'm really loving the style. And yes, I was right. It is Wayne Smith. And like I said, I'm enjoying it a lot right now. And it's got decent ratings on Goodreads, which is unusual for a paperback from hell. Katrina says I was right about De-Evolution. It is by Max Brooks, so I was thinking of the right book. Courtney says she started Within These Walls this morning. I've got that sitting. That's coming right up next. After I finish Thor, this is one of my book club picks for this month, guys. If you guys are trying to join in for August, Within These Walls is one of the reads, and also Slugs by Sean Hudson is one of the reads. And I just finished Slugs last night. Again, that's by Sean Hudson. That's a paperback from hell. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. I really enjoyed it, actually. It was very graphic. I don't know how else to describe it. Really gross. There's some like insane things. I can't wait to talk about Slugs. So there'll be a live show for Slugs and for Within These Walls coming up sometime in September. There are August book clubs. So usually I have the live show the month after. So this Ghoul was one of our July book club reads, and we're talking about it now in August. So I'm excited to talk about this because I think there's a mixture of feelings. And I do want to shout out Juan over at Plagued by Visions. Check out his channel if you haven't already. He read this. It's his official book club pick for his Patreon book club. So I actually saw his review on Goodreads, and I gotta say, he was a little harsh on it. Now, I will say in my wrap up, I didn't give it a super high rating, but I enjoyed it. The only reason I'm not rating Ghoul higher is because I read a ton of great coming of age stories in July. So it's just hard because when you put Ghoul side by side with something like It by Stephen King or a lot of you probably haven't read this, but Toady by Mark Morris, which blew me away. When you put it side by side with those coming of age stories, it didn't rise to the same level in my opinion, but it was still enjoyable. I thought the character development was even better than the horror when we're talking about Ghoul specifically. I thought the human characters were very well fleshed out. But yeah, Juan gave it a 2.5-star rating, this book, Ghoul, that we're talking about now, and he said, the ultimate coming of age 80s summer horror adventure that had already been written 47 times in the 80s. And I was like, oh my gosh. I do have a qualm with the ending, which we will talk about when we get into the spoilers, but I'm not going to get into spoilers just yet. So I understand what Juan means. Like I said, it is hard to compare it to other coming of age horror because there were so many good coming of age horror books and I haven't even read all of them. I want to read Summer of Night by Dan Simmons, and that should be coming up next year. I'm hoping I'm definitely going to get to that next year for sure. Becky is reading The Club by Ellery Lloyd. It's a slow read. Sometimes slow burns can have some really nice payoffs, though. Courtney says Slugs was so good. Like, I know. Oh my god, the part where the people were messing around in the slug in that girl, like, I was kind of grossed out by that. And I also had dreams about slugs coming out of people's brains and eyes. Anyway, you just got to read it if you don't know what I'm talking about. Slugs is crazy, guys. It's nuts. Katrina says Summer of Night is so good. I am so excited to read that next year. I've heard great things. And of course, I think that has more horror and fantasy elements than another great coming of age story that I read in July alongside Ghoul was Boy's Life. But I don't consider that one to be a horror book at all. A lot of people mislabel that book as a horror book, and I don't know why. There's a little bit of fantasy, but it's not horror for sure. Becky enjoyed Ghoul. She said, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I overall enjoyed it. I thought I listened to the audiobook, and I thought the narrator did a good job of doing the voice of the ghoul. I thought that was very creepy, very well done. I thought that was my favorite part was the voiceover for Ghoul. It was like kind of like a snake like hissing type of voice, raspy. Oh, Arlene just finished a book that I mentioned a while ago, 12 Nights in the Rotter House by J.W. Oker. I never know if it's Oker or Ocker. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. But how did you like that, Arlene? I It was a slow burn, I thought, but I thought the ending was a great payoff for 12 Nights at Rotter House. The end was my favorite part of that book, and I read that about a year or so ago. Katrina said, I think I gave Ghoul 4 stars because the ghoul was so gross. Yeah, like I would not want to have to sleep with that ghoul. Like people were having to sleep with them. That's like the most disturbing part. Like if a monster's gonna like dismember me and eat me, that's fine. But like I don't really want to sleep with a random ass monster. Like that's really creepy. That's extra creepy. At least like if he's going to like eat you and be over and done with, and you wouldn't have to be tortured over and over again and go through the same thing and lose your mind like those girls that the ghoul stole did. Poor girls. Oh, I can't even imagine. Bob Apple said, I came of age in the 80s, so the nostalgia in Ghoul really works for me. Yeah, and I will say, there were some surprising heavy parts to Ghoul, and I am going to put up my little spoiler banner soon so that you guys know I am going to talk spoilers very soon, and I don't want anyone to be surprised when I do get into the spoilers. By the way, just one more sidebar. Sorry. DJ said, I'm glad you like Slugs. I met Sean Hudson and got my copy signed. That's so cool. Yes, Slugs was so much fun. Oh my god. Just bonkers, off the wall, crazy. I can't say enough good things. It was really quick to read. I read it in 2 sittings, and I probably could have read it in 1 sitting, but I started, then I thought I was gonna do a vlog, so I stopped, and yesterday, I ended up not doing a vlog, and it doesn't help that I had to read it on my phone, and my phone is my camera for, like, YouTube, and so I was like, "How do I film myself while I'm reading it on my phone?" Anyway, so it didn't work out to where I vlogged it. I did go Halloween shopping yesterday at Michael's, and I also went to Barnes& and Noble and did a little mini book shopping spree because I had a $50 gift certificate. So yes, by the way, speaking of Brian Keene, since that's the author of the book we are talking about today, Katrina, I bought Dark Hollow, which Katrina, guys, just talked about this not long ago on our YouTube channel. So check out Katrina's YouTube channel. You could see her in the comments right here, Katrina Brown. And yeah, she had some interesting things to say about Dark Hollow, but I know this one might become sad too. This might be a sad read from what Katrina has said after she read it. So crazy, but also one part sad because of a specific reason that she indicated. Katrina is doing more Halloween shopping tomorrow. She's so excited. That's awesome. I hope you find some really good goodies. I don't know. I guess the vlog I was planning to do, since I took footage at the Halloween place and at Barnes and Noble, maybe I'll just do like a shopping vlog, like Halloween and book shopping or something, and then like show a haul at the end. Maybe I'll do that instead. Oh, Nathan's here. Nathan! Oh my god! I have to respond to your text. I've been meaning to for a few days. How are you doing? He says, I'll be sure to check out Summer of Night. Dan Simmons' The Terror is one of my favorite horror novels. I've heard great things about The Terror. It is a chunker, so I'm a little intimidated, but I do want to read that one as well. Jamie is here. Hi, Jamie. How you doing? And yeah, Katrina, I think my cover, is it different than yours? My cover of Dark Hollow? I don't remember your copy looking like this. I feel like you had a smaller, like, mass market type of copy of Dark Hollow. Maybe I'm wrong though. I could have sworn you held it up and it was different. Let's see. Smells Like Teen Horror said, I would love Most Likely to Die, the book he's reading. It's like a Fear Street book with more of an edge. Then yes, I would like it because I love anything that's kind of like Fear Street, but Fear Street could be a little bit tame. So if it has more of an edge, then I would definitely like it. All right, guys. So let's jump in a little bit to Ghoul. I want you guys, I know Katrina shouted out her rating. What did you guys think of Ghoul specifically? Give your star ratings. What were your favorite parts? Was your favorite part the Ghoul? Was your favorite part the kid characters? Was there anything that disappointed you about this read, etc., etc.? Drop all of your opinions below and I will share them in, from the chat into my stream. Nathan says the movie Slugs is awesome. I have got to watch it. I know that Sean Hudson has a foreword in his book that talks about how some people think, and he thinks like the movie's cheesy, but it's also great at the same time, especially when you compare it to movies like Twilight. At least that's what Sean Hudson said. So he's like, whatever. Okay, yeah, so Katrina said she does have a different mass market version of Dark Hollow, the book, and hers is black and it has got red eyes and trees. Yeah, I found the one I bought at Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble has really, at least the one by me, has expanded their horror section, and I'm very glad because it had some stuff I was surprised to see there. Like, this is spoiling my book haul, but I also bought Man F This House. I was like, I'm surprised this is at Barnes and Noble. Anyway, also, Nathan, you will be happy about this. Where'd I put it? I bought Swan Song by Robert McCammon. It's going to be my first read of 2023. I know I keep going on sidebars, but it's all about books, so it's book related. So thank you guys for bearing with me and I don't know, for indulging me. I appreciate it because it's always fun to talk about other things that are semi-related. It's kind of along the same lines. All right, so oh, and don't forget, anyone who did, speaking of Robert McCammon, before we dive back into Ghoul, anyone who read Boy's Life by Robert McCammon for my July book club, then, because that was the second book that was one of my picks for July, that live stream will be taking place later in the week, this week, on August 18th. So Thursday, August 18th at 7 p.m. Central Time. Once again, Thursday, August 18th, 7 p.m. Central Time. This stream might be a little bit shorter, but the Boys Life live stream is going to be super long because I've got so much to say. Katrina says Slugs is on Tubi. She's going to watch it tonight. I've got to make time to watch that. That's going to be a lot of fun, especially since I just watched the movie. I mean, not just watched the movie. I just read the book. Dyslexic. I just read the book, so it would make sense to watch the movie right away. Jamie gave Ghoul a B on her grading scale. That's not too bad. I would say that's a pretty decent rating. I gave it like a 3.5 star. Like I said, I read, you guys, if you're just joining, you might have missed it, but I recently, a few minutes ago, just read Juan over at Plagued by Vision's review on Goodreads. Very short review, but a 2.5 star, which is pretty low. The only book I've rated, I'm really not a low rater. I probably rate books on the higher side of things. I think the only book I've rated like 2 stars is Funland by Richard Lehman. And I love Richard Lehman, but I didn't like Funland. Sadie Hartman, she rated Ghoul 5 stars. I'm trying to see if anyone else I know. No one that I'm actually like. Oh, well, Jonathan Janz, the author, who's written a book that I've read, Children of the Dark, is it Children of the Dark? It's not out here, is it? It must be in the other room in my living room, but is it? I'm gonna have to look it up now. It's gonna bother me that I can't remember the book that I read by Jonathan Janz. I know he wrote Dust Devils too. A lot of people were reading that for like the Western themed month of reading. I think he wrote that. Children of the Dark. I was right. Okay, so yes, Jonathan Janz, the author, gave Ghoul, and he's a big fan of Robert McCammon, by the way. He gave Ghoul 5 stars. I want to see what he says here. He wrote a big long review, and I'm going to read it in a second. But yes, I think the ending of Ghoul was super sad, and I'm going to say why. Did you guys like the end? Specifically, let me look up the character's name. Where is it? Not Timmy. Okay, it's Barry. So Barry was the one with the abusive father, if you guys remember. The father took care of the cemetery. He was the one in cahoots with the Ghoul. So I cannot believe Barry ended up growing up to be just like his dad. After all that he endured as a kid, he still wound up like his dad. Is that realistic? Probably, because, nature and nurture, both of those things, I guess, would lead him maybe to have the same kind of tendencies and genes. Like maybe that was like a trait that he had, that, and also, like I said, the conditioning of being abused, that he then would abuse his own son. But that was so sad. Oh my god, I just thought Barry wouldn't have allowed that to happen for himself to become like his father. That was just like, and I know why Keene wrote it that way, because he's trying to say that humans can be just as bad as actual monsters. Like humans can be the monsters. But it was just so disappointing, because I thought that Barry could overcome after living through that. So it's a bummer. How did you guys feel about that? That really tore me up, and I was torn about how I felt about it, cuz I understand the logic, but I didn't want it, and I like bleak endings. It's not that I need a happy ending at all. It's just that I don't know. And I wanted to know more about what happened to the girl after she got rescued, who had to be with the Ghoul. So, what was the rest of her life like? She was traumatized, I'm sure. Did anything develop? I mean, I'm guessing she didn't become pregnant, obviously, which is what the Ghoul wanted, for her to become pregnant. So I'm guessing that didn't happen. But what did you guys think? Did you want more to the ending? Did you like the sad ending? Did you think it was realistic but didn't like it? Just give me your thoughts on the ending specifically, because that's the part that like stayed with me, was the very end and the Barry thing. And I'm like, how could he be like this to his son right in front of his old friend who knew about, his dad? It was just a bummer. Courtney said, I gave Ghoul a 4, mostly just because I had so much fun reading it. Very quick read, pretty easy to get through, I think. Courtney also said, I don't read a lot of coming of age horror though, so that might have helped out. Like I said, it wasn't bad at all. Bob Apples gives it a solid 4. Brian Keene is such a phenomenal guy. I'm a fanboy. Again, I'm really excited to read more by him. I didn't dislike it or think the writing was bad. I just read a ton of great coming of age books, and that's the only reason I think I didn't like it. Like, it probably would have been a 4 otherwise, had I just read only this as the coming of age book of the month, So that was a little different for me, a different of an experience. Katrina said, yes, the end was so sad. I know, it was horrible. Becky also said, yes, it was a sad ending. I just wanted it to play out different, like Barry overcome. Come on. So I don't know. That was just very upsetting to me. So Jonathan Jan says, like I said, he gave it a 5 stars. And of course, this is the author that I'm referencing. the author Jonathan Jans. To avoid becoming monsters, we must be aware of how profoundly our programming affects us. There are two scenes in Ghoul that keep me up at night, neither of which deal with the actual ghoul, which was extremely scary. The scenes involve a young man named Barry, and it might be time for you to stop reading if you want to remain unspoiled. I mean, I'll try not to get too specific, but to make my point, yeah, minor or arguably major spoilers. The first scene involves the three boys and their vengeance on a very ill-tempered and aggressive dog. Oh yeah, that was disturbing. Timmy, the protagonist, and Doug gleefully give the dog his comeuppance, but Barry takes it a step further and further and further. It left me sleepless. Yet that part disturbed me as well. It was not enjoyable to read that part. And, rightfully so. It's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be, Barry is struggling. In fact, it's he's saying that the end is even more haunting. In fact, it's probably my favorite Keen ending, not because I liked it. I didn't like it. I hated it. Me too. Uh, but I guess that is why it's effective. It's my favorite because it had integrity, he says. It was true. It was, and yes, I'm using this word to describe the resolution of a contemporary horror novel because some horror novels are far more than what most people give them credit for being important. It was important because we need to be aware of what we've been exposed to and conditioned by in our formative years. Unfortunately, there are an awful lot of people who don't think about these things. There have to be a great many people like this. Otherwise, there wouldn't be abused children and battered spouses. But we know there are, and that's why I love the ending of this book. Brian Keene is known for a lot of things: suspense, violence, a wry sense of humor, but what calls me back to his books the most compelling is emotion. The emotions I felt at the end of Ghoul and continue to feel are complicated. At first, I felt desolate, then I felt angry. Soon after that, I felt blessed that I had escaped my own programming, or at least suppressed it enough to treat my own children better than my biological father treated me. Now, I feel resolve to continue to call out abusive behavior when I see it, resolve to continue seeking the truth in my own stories. At its core, that's what Ghoul is: truth. Painful, unvarnished truth, and that's why it's important. I do like that review. I do think that review makes some amazing points. Definitely awesome observations there. The Rockford Project's here. Good evening. How you doing? Happy that you're here. Katrina said, I think it would have been cool to get the survivor's story and the epilogue, and what if she did give birth? I know. That's what I was left wondering about, like, what happened to her? How did her life turn out? It couldn't have been easy. I mean, I just have a feeling it was terrible for her after that. Jamie says, unfortunately, sooner or later, we become adults. When we become adults, we become our parents. In some cases, yes. But like Jonathan says, some people can overcome that. Didomus says, I would give Ghoul a 4 out of 5. I'm a child of the 80s, and so it was full of nostalgia. I love the cemetery setting and how it wasn't afraid to go into extremely disturbing territories. I loved the cemetery setting. That is a great point. I thought that was so atmospheric. It was very appropriate for the story, and it was a perfect setting for the ghoul to live in. It was perfect for his lair, his underground lair. I did like the myth behind him, and I liked how it just so happened that the reverend guy knew about the background of the myth of the ghoul, so that was helpful for the story for those of us who are readers. But it was also uh, helpful for Timmy to learn all of that as well, because then he started suspecting that something was true. By the way, not only is Barry sad, but his other friend, what happens to him with his mom and then how he gets killed, is sad. No, like his head. I think, doesn't his head, he gets beheaded? That part was so sad. I was like, no, after all he's been through. And Timmy, not knowing if he should tell his parents. And I also thought it was hard to read his parents ripping up his comics just because, it was just a tough scene to read because he had such a good relationship with them. Also, his relationship with his grandpa, I loved that. I was really touched by that in the story. Again, I was really compelled by the human parts of the story more than the ghoul, personally, because, like I said, I read some great horror, specifically this month, or last month, I should say, in July. Toady, if you're looking for a good coming of age horror that has some great imagery, specifically horror imagery, Toady, aka The Horror Club, Good stuff. I can't recommend it enough. Nobody's talking about that book. It's a chunker, 700 pages, but definitely it delivered with the horror for sure. Bob Apple says, I highly recommend Darkness on the Edge of Town by Keene. Awesome survival story. Stephen King personally reached out to let him know he liked that book. Ooh, that's a great suggestion. I'm going to make sure to add it to my Goodreads after this. Darkness on the Edge of Town. I'll have to keep my eye out for that one. Anyone see the film adaptation of Ghoul that was made for the Chiller channel a decade ago? I did not see it, but on my copy it says now a Chiller original movie, so it says that it's a movie. I would like to see how they translated it to film. Did you see it? Because that would be interesting to get someone's opinion on it. I did not watch it. I should be watching the adaptations of these stories that I've been reading. I mean, I got to see Slugs now. I got to see Ghoul now. I did watch it. If you guys missed it, my friend Kat and I read it and we watched all the adaptations, which I had already seen the adaptations, but it was fun to compare and contrast, the book between the movies. I always love doing that. Katrina says the opening was so good, it gave me B horror vibes. I love the cemetery setting. I did like the open too. It really got right to it. Like you had the teenagers messing around. You could totally see it playing out cinematically. So I wonder if they kept that opening scene for the movie on Chiller. That would be interesting to see how that movie opened. I do think, like I said, it was effective. It kind of got right into it, but then you got a little side like a side story of getting to know the characters before you even got back to the ghoul. Does anyone know who to compare Brian Keene to in terms of writing style? The Rockford Project says not read any by Keene, but people keep telling me to give his books a go. I'm not sure who he is similar to. That is a good question. I don't know what Ghoul reminds me of, but Brian Keene reads all kinds of indie horror. He's always blurbing other people's books. Like when I pick up a whole bunch, like I know he's blurbed for Jonathan Jans, who wrote that review I read you guys. Who else has he blurbed for? He's read so many other horror books and it was written quotes about them. It's like almost every indie horror book I own. It's like Brian Keene says something about it on the back. I like that. I think that's a sign of a good horror author who's reading his peers and his other people's works, people in his field. Katrina's going to look for the movie adaptation of Ghoul to see if she could find it so she could read or watch it. Why am I mixing up movies and books, reading and watching? Ridiculous. In terms of the Ghoul, I don't know what my favorite part was. Like I said, I did kind of like when they were down there with him right before he got buried, right before they escaped at the last moment, and the abusive dad got buried too, along with everything. I kind of liked that as well because the dad got what was coming to him, and I hated that guy. I hated him so much. Oh, he was the worst, and that makes me even more sad about Barry winding up like him. Okay, Doug is the other friend. I couldn't remember the other friend's name. So Doug, what was happening with him was sad too, and his mom. And I loved how he opened up to Timmy and how much he liked Timmy's parents. So even when Timmy was annoyed with his parents, Doug's like, dude, you got it good. And I would think Barry would feel the same as well. But yeah, great characterization. In my opinion, that is my favorite part of the book. And I think that's the biggest strength of the book. But I do think the horror was pretty well done as well. Katrina says Brian Keene writes a lot of creature features. Don't know who to compare him to, though. Yeah, me neither. I'm trying to think of a similar writing style. There's nothing that stands out overly about his style, but I think he does a good job at doing everything, but he just does it well. He wrote good characters in this story. He had some hateable characters, some lovable characters, some characters you just felt sad and you felt empathy for. I just think he's really good at doing the basics very well, if that makes sense. Also, he had a good setting. He had a good monster and a good background for the monster. So I think he did all the elements very well. Again, it made for a solid read. Not my favorite read, but solid, completely solid. And fun. And that's the point of horror sometimes, is to have fun but also to make you think. And I think it did those two things at the same time, which isn't always possible. Sometimes you get your bleak horror, sometimes you got your fun horror, and sometimes, very rarely, You've got horror that could do both. I can't even speak today. I'm blaming the farmer's market for being so hot walking there. All right. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to shout out. Again, I do like the time period as well, set in the 80s. I wish I knew more about, what Juan would criticize about it specifically, because, like I said, Plagued by Visions, aka Juan, gave it a 2.5. And I just want to know more of his opinion. I guess he just thinks it didn't do anything that stood out compared to other coming of age books. And I will say, I mean, it is a subgenre of horror. There are a lot of coming of age horror novels out there. So, in a way, it's kind of hard to do something new. But some authors end up being able to accomplish that, doing something different and new. Like I said, I just think Keene did with this particular entry, he did something that was at least just well done overall. It might not have been something that was different completely, but it checked all the boxes for a solid read, as I said, to reiterate. Rockford Project says, I'm a big Lehman, King, and Kuntz fan, so wasn't sure if he's similar to any of those authors. Lehman is like very different, I would say. Lehman, I don't think Keene is as offensive as Lehman or as, quote, trashy as Lehman. And I love Lehman. So I'm saying that not in a begrudging way or mean way or overly critical way. Kuntz, I have got to read more by Kuntz. I've only read like a few actually middle grade books, which were fantastic by him. It was like a kid's picture book, Christmas themed. Was it called Santa's Twin? So good. Uh, I think it was Santa's Twin. Anyway, it was very cute. The whole thing rhymed, and it was like a Santa that was kind of evil, and it was the twin of Santa. Anyway, I highly recommend that. But the one thing I read by Kuntz that was a normal novel was, what was it called? The Mask. Of course, that was one of his early novels, so he really didn't have his style down, and it's not his best book. A lot of his fans say it's not his best book for sure. So I am still going to give him a chance. In fact, I've got Intensity. For some reason, it's in my closet. It's one of the few books in my closet. I don't know why it's there. Don't ask me why I put it there, but I have to put it on my actual bookshelf. Again, I don't want to be giving away all my buys from Barnes and Noble, but I was very excited to find that Brian Keene, because they had more than one Brian Keene book at Barnes and Noble, which I thought was pretty cool. Because yeah, Brian Keene is pretty well known, but is he like mainstream? I don't think so. And it just, back 5 years ago, you would go to Barnes and Noble and you would only see Kuntz and King. You wouldn't really, or Anne Rice as well. And I'm trying to think of who else you would probably see. Right now, I think even 2 years ago, you'd see Grady Hendrix, but you wouldn't see much more than that, in my opinion. But it's great to see people like Keene show up in a Barnes and Noble. I'm just very excited about it. Katrina said, I've only read one Kuntz, but he has so many. I have a ton of his books, always finding them in the wild. Yes, he does have so many. And I do have also, I bought a new edition of, is it Watchers? With the dog as a character. I don't know. I must like reading from a dog's perspective or reading books with dogs, because I'm enjoying Thor that I'm reading right now, told from the dog's perspective. I also loved Hellhound by Ken Greenhall, which also has, it's not all from the dog's point of view, but a lot of the book is from the dog's point of view, and then it switches to other characters' points of views within the book. But it's very effective, very well done. It's written with like a minimalistic style, but it works for the book. It's marvelous. I can't recommend that one enough. But also, yeah, Watchers, I'm intrigued by Kuntz because that one has a major character is a dog, and it just seems like it's going to be a fun time. So I definitely want to get to that at some time. The Rockford Project says, yeah, Kuntz loves his labs, so he includes them in most of his books. Yeah, I know he actually wrote a book about one of his dogs, which I think is so cute. Do I have my eye on any Bentley Little books? I know Katrina read one recently. Again, check out Katrina's channel, Katrina Brown. She's right here right now. She just read one and didn't absolutely love it. In fact, it disappointed her. and I'm not gonna read that one. What was that one called again, Katrina? The one you read by Bentley Little? His his titles get mixed up in my head because he's got a lot of books that are similarly named, like The Mailman, and what's the other one that's like The Mailman? I just added a whole bunch to my Goodreads. Let me see. I own one. Where is it? Hold on. Let me look down here. I know I saw it the other day. Where are you? Oh, here we go. Good thing I didn't buy this. I saw this at Barnes and Noble. This is the house. I have this one. I know I have more by Bentley Little. Everything is disorganized right now with my books, and I didn't even take the sticker off, by the way. Over here. I didn't take the sticker off, by the way, yet. I hate that they put stickers on these books. It's so annoying. Where'd I get this from? The Book Palace. This is a first printing from 1999. I don't know if okay, so Katrina, like I said, the house. She read The Haunting by Bentley Little, and yeah, she said she didn't like absolutely love it, and I don't think I'm gonna read that one for sure. But I don't know. Is this one good? Bob Apples, do you have a suggestion for a Bentley Little? I know I asked somebody. I asked, people watching one of my YouTube videos what they would read, and some people had some good shout outs. I know, let me see. Where is my want to read list on my Goodreads? Hopefully, I'm not banging the table with my mic too much. Let's see. Want to read. It's loading. Give me a second. Let's see. Come on, come on. The Handyman. See, the Mailman, the Handyman, it's very similar like titles. That's why I get mixed up with his books. So I have the Handyman and the Mailman on my want to read list. So I do have my eye on those, but I don't own a copy of either of those. I know I have more. Wait, is that one? Oh, and speaking of authors who want to read more by, another book that I have on my to read list from Brian Keene, who we're talking about Ghoul today, that he wrote. I have The Rising by Brian Keene on my want to read list. Has anyone read The Rising? I think it's like a zombie like story, if I remember correctly. Hmm. Oh, I also have Castaways by Brian Keene on my want to read list. For some reason, I'm seeing his books more than Bentley Little on here. Oh, a Kuntz book, a Dean Kuntz book I want to read, Twilight Eyes, and I found a used copy out in the wild recently. All right, let's see. Katrina says the Kuntz book she has and that she did read had the point of view of a dog. I love that. I love that. So cute. Becky said she liked The Haunted. Oh, what did you like about it, Becky? Bob, App- Bob Apples recommends The Association or The Mailman. I've heard great things from numerous people about The Mailman, so that might be the one I go with because I have not heard a bad thing about The Mailman. Everyone says it's like kind of fast paced, it's not slow, it gets going pretty quick, and it's entertaining and has like a wild plot line. So I'm totally up for that. Courtney says With Teeth by Brian Keene is so great. I'm gonna have to check that one out. You guys always have the best suggestions. My want to read list grows so much after I do live streams and also after I release a video and ask people what should I read by this person or that person. Then the list grows even more when people comment stuff. I love that. I never complain about my reading list getting bigger, even though it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. I don't know. I know my friend Kelly, to mention her one more time, again, Kelly Hooked on Books on YouTube and on Instagram. She actually deleted her want to read list on Goodreads because she said it was like overwhelming and it made her anxious. How do you guys feel about that? Do you like having a long list on your Goodreads, or do you purposely not make a list because it's too much for you? How do you feel about a list? I love lists, so like having a long list, yeah, it's intimidating in a way, but I like referring back to a list and being like, okay, I remember I want to read this one, or I specifically added this one for some reason, yada yada. Little, and she means Bentley Little, who we're just talking about, has great covers. I think I'm gonna read The Mailman. I think I am too, Katrina. Do you own a copy of that one? Because I don't, but I would totally like read it if you ever wanted to do a buddy read or something one day. That would be fun. And that would be my first Bentley Little, so and hopefully you would like that one more. Oh, Katrina said Audible had Bentley Little's books on for free a while ago. Oh man, I wish I would have caught that because I would have totally gotten a few. Jamie says, I have my eye on Brian Keene's Urban Gothic. I have that as an ebook. I haven't heard of that one. Rockford Project said, I had the collection, which is a lot of short stories by Bentley Little. That was really good. Ooh. Bob Apple said, With Teeth, awesome vampire story. Jamie wants to read Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz. I've seen that one everywhere. I've never seen the adaptation. Katrina said, With Teeth was fun. Becky says the next Bentley Little book I plan to read is The Store. I've heard about that one too, The Store. See again, the house, the store, like no wonder I get confused. All the names, they're just so similar. In fact, I think I was on Reddit the other day when I was looking up Bentley Little and they were like his noun books cuz the store, the whatever. It's all like places. I liked how they were referring to it as that. Katrina says, I like having a Goodreads list. It's like a retirement plan. Yes, I like it too. It's so much fun to look at I always look at it. I'm like, what should I like read or try to read and then it's hard to pick sometimes. Sometimes, like I said, it's a lot to look at, but I still enjoy browsing through my list. Mr. Morningstar is here. Hi, Mr. Morningstar. Check out his YouTube channel, by the way. I always like to shout out other people's channels. Rockford Project says The Taking, Midnight, and TikTok were great books by Kuntz. I don't think I've heard of any of those. Like I said, I am definitely excited about Twilight Eyes. I've heard wonderful things about that. And Rockford Project continues and says The Taking was terrifying. I love this. I love suggestions. Also, guys, I am trying to consider or thinking of considering dipping my toe in some fantasy next year. Like, for instance, I'm going to read Lord of the Rings for the first time, or I'm hoping to. We'll see. But I was in an Uber and the Uber driver suggested, this is so random. He suggested this fantasy series to me when he was bringing me to a bookstore. So he was like, "What are you looking for?" I'm like, "Horror." And the Uber driver, we just were talking, and I was like, "Well, what do you like?" He's like, "I have like 400 fantasy books at home." I'm like, "Oh, well, who do you like? Who's some of your favorites?" And then he said the Wheel of Time series. It's like a 8 or 10 book series. Each book is like 800 pages long. And I was like, damn. But I put the first book on my want to read list because I don't know, that'd be kind of cool to see if I like it. I've heard people compare it to Lord of the Rings. We'll see. And then I know a friend on my Discord said Discworld. Of course, that's by Terry Pratchett, that series. I don't know. That one looks kind of intimidating, to be honest. Anyway, so I'm thinking about expanding next year. Another thing I added recently, which is not really in my usual wheelhouse because it seems like it's more of a thriller. Uh, the new book coming out, I don't think it's out yet. Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I've got my eye on that one. I would love to read that one. So yeah, I've got a lot of things on my list that I got my eye on right now. Oh my god, Katrina read it. She says she loves the Wheel of Time. Okay, so I should give it a chance then, Katrina, because like I'm kind of intrigued. Really intrigued because I looked up the the premise and just the way the Uber driver was describing it, I was kind of into it. Have you read the whole thing or you've just read a few of the books or oh, she still has to read the last book she says. She didn't want it to end. Well, that makes me feel excited about it. So, I think I will give it a shot. And I know, we're in the horror community. I'm not sure how many people would still watch me if I talked about fantasy, but I would hope some people still would. Fingers crossed, because I think that'd be kind of fun and it would be expanding my horizons. I also want to read, what did I want to read? I definitely want to read Watership Down. I know my friend Ali over the channel Criminali, that was one of his birth year books that he's been reading, like all these books that people suggested that came out the year they were born, and that was one of the books someone suggested that was their favorite book from their birth year, so he read it, and I wish I would have joined in, but I was really reading too much that month. But anyway, that's one of the books I would love to read next year. Obviously, not a horror book, but the movie adaptation. I don't know if you guys saw it. I saw that and owned it on VHS as a kid. I will say it will scar you if you saw it when you were a kid. And even if you see it now, like my boyfriend was in the room when I was rewatching it. Again, we're talking about the animated Watership Down, and he's like, "You watched this as a kid? Like your parents let you watch this?" I said, "Yes." Like I owned this on VHS. It was pretty extreme because there's like blood and stuff in the animated movie, and it's just very creepy. There's like this big battle scene between this really mean looking rabbit and other rabbits at the end. Ugh, it's hard to watch. Ooh, this is cool. Mr. Morningstar said he found a new bookstore near him that has a cafe with wine and coffee. It's kind of the greatest thing ever. That reminds me, so I was it Lafayette? I was, a couple of hours up north in Louisiana, and there was a cocktail bar attached to a bookstore, and it had used books and new books, and I was like, this is the greatest day ever. And so you could get your cocktail after 6 p.m. You had to be 21 and over to go into either the bookstore or the cocktail bar because they were connected. So we went in, and you're allowed to take your drink and like browse around. How cool is that? And I found a 90s coloring book in that cocktail bar bookstore. So it was awesome. So I understand what you mean, Mr. Morningstar, because I thought that cocktail bar was the greatest. Jamie says, I love Lord of the Rings, one of my favorites. She likes to have a staycation in Middle Earth every once in a while. I love the movies, but I know obviously they're not the exact same. I have read The Hobbit and loved that. Oh, I read that like back in middle school a long time ago. Katrina says, yes, she liked the book. She read a ton of fantasy when she started her channel, and there's horror elements in the later Wheel of Time books. I am so excited to give it a try now. Yeah, the guy definitely in the Uber kind of made it sound like at some points there was like horror centric stuff, which is cool. She said it got her curious about horror again. So yeah, that makes me feel like it's going to be a good thing to dip my toe into. Courtney Myers says Watership Down traumatized her. I know. I actually loved that movie, so I wasn't too scared of it as a kid, but I did watch it around like Halloween time a lot of times because it's that creepy. I don't think the book is like that extreme at all from what I understand, but I could be wrong. I know it's kind of like philosophical, and we'll see how it is. I'll have to read it and see. It's more obviously a work of like literary fiction versus, specifically horror. Obviously, I know it's not a horror book. DJ says The Hobbit is better than Lord of the Rings in their opinion. Wow, that's a good take. That's an interesting take. I did love The Hobbit, so I don't know how I feel about Lord of the Rings. I know there's a lot of description. I might use an audiobook to help like me go on the journey so that I don't feel like I have to rush like reading it with my eyes. We'll see. I already own the books. They're at my mom and dad's house, so hmm. Oh my god, this is cool. DJ says one of the TV channels here showed Watership Down on a Sunday afternoon a couple of years ago, and it got record complaints. Yeah, because if a kid like automatically, sometimes you think you see an animated thing that it's for kids, so somebody flipping channels would stop maybe, and they'll see Watership Down. They might actually start watching it, and if it's a kid, it's a bad decision. But once again, like I guess I just didn't have a normal childhood because I watched it at like I don't know, 7 years old, and it was hardcore to see it that early on, I will say, but I liked it a lot. So I'm very excited. I'll have to do like a suggestion video where I ask people for some fantasy suggestions or some other suggestions. I wouldn't mind dipping my toe into like other things too. Like, for instance, this isn't my normal type of genre, but I just got this first book in the series, and I definitely want to read this, even though it's like my not my normal genre of like book. I kind of want to dive into this series too next year. I've heard great things about it. I should really check things out from the library instead of just buying things, whatever. I just think I might like this. I'm like spoiling a ton of book haul stuff here, but hey, you guys get to see some new books I bought recently. I had a little Amazon splurge the other day, so I'll have a book haul soon. It'll probably be my next video, actually, some kind of book haul, either a vintage or a new book haul, because I've got both vintage books to haul and new books to haul and middle grade vintage books to haul. Actually, also new middle grade books as well. So I have everything, a little bit of everything: adult, middle grade, vintage, new. Got some of everything. A little sprinkle here, sprinkle there. All right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up soon. Just let me know if you guys want to share any more thoughts before I sign off about Ghoul. I'm so glad you guys joined in and read it with me or with Juan and then joined in for this live show. Either way, it means a lot to me that you're here to talk about it with me right now or after the fact if you're watching this after I'm done. Comment what you thought below if you are watching after I've stopped streaming, because I'd love to know everyone's opinion about the book, what your rating was specifically, favorite character, favorite scene. Of course, it's kind of easy to say that your favorite character is Timmy. He's such a sweet boy. He definitely wants to stand up for his friends, stand up for what's right. And I don't know, I just think he was pretty much a good kid. He really was. And he tried to do right by people. Oh, Jamie says it's fun getting together like this. Thank you so much, Jamie. Katrina has another suggestion. The Broken Earth trilogy was excellent. I'm going to write that one down too. Is this a piece of paper I can use? Yes. Broken Earth. That way you guys don't have to hear me type on my computer. Okay, guys, thank you so much. This was so much fun. Again, I'm gonna probably do like a suggestion video before 2023 where I ask for people's suggestions about, non-horror, because I think that'd be interesting, and I might like make a little mini 10-book list of non-horror books that I want to read in 2023, along with my regular 23 books I want to read, which will probably be all horror. And then I'm thinking about also doing a 23 vintage book list, so it's at least 46 books, and then if you add 10 more that are non-horror, that's 50 something books. But if I'm reading like over 100 books in a year, it's still doable and it still leaves wiggle room to just add things randomly. The Desdin Files is a pretty good fantasy series. This is exciting. There's a lot of fantasy series, it seems like, versus a book that's like a standalone fantasy book, it seems. There just seems to be a ton of series for some reason, which makes me a little nervous. Like, am I getting myself into too many series? But it could be fun nonetheless. I'm still excited either way. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday or whatever day you're viewing this. If you're watching after the fact, always appreciate you guys' time and your interaction. And also to anyone who's watching who has commented on my other videos, I am going to respond very soon. I suck at responding in a timely manner lately. I'm always like, I've got comments to respond to. I read them right away. It's just like going back. I don't even heart them so that they stay where I could see them and I know that I still need to respond. So just because I don't heart them or respond right away, it doesn't mean I didn't see them. It means that I'm purposely not hearting them so that I can remember to respond. Bye, Becky. Thank you. Bye, Jamie. Bye, Katrina. Thank you so much. Bye, Nathan. I know you were here earlier. Bye, DJ. Bye, Courtney. Bye, DJ. I said DJ already. Bye, bye, Rockford Project. Bye, Mr. Morningstar. Bye, Bob Apples. I'm just going through my list. I don't want to forget anybody. Bye, Arlene. Thank you all so very much. I really love chatting with all of you. You guys rock. Bye, Smells Like Teen Horror. Appreciate all of you. Bye, Cool Gamer. You guys are awesome and have a great rest of the day. For this time, I say this all the time, so I've got to say my sign off. For this time, it is it for me. Till next time, you guys know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye, guys.